Caitlin is an amazing generational talent, and she's going to do amazing things.
Caitlin Clark, known for her dominance on the court, has just unleashed her inner Steph Curry, absolutely destroying DiJonai Carrington after being brutally assaulted by her in a previous game.
You're the number one pick. People are going to go after you because they see greatness in you.
This isn't just another basketball match, this is revenge, and Clark took it in epic fashion, dropping 25 points while Carrington struggled to even put up 10.
DiJonai the Spice Carrington called Caitlin Clark out, mocked her, and other times.
But what's even crazier? The media is backing DiJonai, calling her assault a basketball play. While the truth is clear, Carrington's jealousy and arrogance fueled her attack, and Clark came back to make her pay.
It's absolutely unfair to DiJonai Carrington to accuse her of trying to poke somebody's eye and functionally blind them.
And if you thought that's all, think again. We'll dive deep into how the media betrayed Caitlin.
Things happen. Probably every basketball game that is played.
DiJonai's shocking excuses.
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me.
And the behind-the-scenes relationship drama between Carrington and her partner Nalissa Smith, which might just have more to do with this feud than anyone is willing to admit.
The only league that I know of where DiJonai the Spice Carrington is engaged to the power forward on the Indiana Fever, Niza, whatever the hell her name is, Smith, Jones, whatever the hell her name is, I think it's Smith. They're engaged, and they're competing against each other.
Buckle up, because this is a WNBA drama like you've never seen before. Let's get into it. Let's rewind to the match where it all began. Caitlin Clark, one of the WNBA's brightest stars, was visibly shaken after a brutal hit from DiJonai Carrington. In what many are calling a basketball play, the truth is far from innocent.
It's not worthy of discussion. Where's the mention the Michael Jordan of the WNBA was assaulted, has a black eye because DiJonai Carrington stabbed her with her fingernails in the eye?
Clark, known for her sharp shooting and laser focus, was knocked off her game, scoring significantly lower than her usual stats.
Crazy-ass lesbians, the crazy-ass OGs, the crazy-ass sexist, racist, hadn't been so hateful.
No foul call, no refs stopping the game to go, is this a flagrant?
Thanks to Carrington's intentional hit. But was it really just a play on the ball? Absolutely not.
That was a flagrant foul. That was unnecessary. Flagrant, anything deemed to be unnecessary. I need somebody to explain to me why was that necessary.
We've seen DiJonai's antics before. This is a player with a history of going after Caitlin, mocking her on and off the court, clearly fueled by jealousy and the burning desire to take Clark out of the spotlight.
This is inexcusable. Carrington should be suspended. It's criminal that there was no flagrant call here.
The hit wasn't just a fluke. It was a strategic move. DiJonai knew that by knocking Clark out of her rhythm, she could potentially ruin her performance and shift the balance of the game. And it worked.
They're moving games, putting them on big-time situations.
Right.
You're jealous. That was a Bush League play, and it needs to be addressed.
Caitlin, who usually lights up the scoreboard, was visibly off that night, scoring far below her usual numbers. DiJonai's plan? Sabotage Clark's game, injure her, and make sure the league's shining star was dimmed, at least for that match.
And I watched very, very, very physical play from the moment of the tip to the end of the game on Caitlin Clark. So I won't deny that there is a bit of an energy towards Caitlin Clark from the players.
Then came DiJonai's public statement, where she claimed, "I didn't even know I hit her. Really?"
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am.
It's hard to believe that. With her exaggerated nails, fake lashes, and arrogant demeanor, she stood in front of the cameras pretending as if the hit was nothing more than an accident. But the truth is obvious. This was no accident. It was calculated, vicious, and intended to send a message.
ESPN wrote a story after the game that did not mention the first woman to ever be the biggest star in American sports was assaulted 2 minutes into the game on a dirty play with one of these women with these long fake fingernails that stabbed her in the eye.
Clark was a target, and DiJonai made sure to land the blow where it hurt most. Caitlin, however, isn't just any player. She's a game changer, and while that game was a low point, it only fueled her determination for what came next.
DiJonai has a history with Caitlin Clark, many of these girls in the WNBA, but she's at the top of the list along with Kennedy Carter in Chicago and Angel Reese, those three.
What DiJonai didn't expect was that Clark would rise from this assault stronger, angrier, and ready for revenge. The tables turned quickly. DiJonai Carrington may have landed a cheap shot during their first matchup, but Caitlin Clark wasn't going to let it slide.
Do you know what would happen if she fought back in a real way? She did. She slapped Carrington later in the game. But she's also smart enough to know fighting some angry black lesbians, not her job, and it would lead to a collapse of the league.
Just one game later, Clark came back with a vengeance and completely obliterated DiJonai on the court in a jaw-dropping performance that had everyone talking. Channeling her inner Steph Curry, Caitlin Clark delivered a masterclass in basketball.
Obviously got me pretty good in the eye. I don't think it affected me. Honestly, I felt like I got good shots. They just didn't go down. And
Clark dropped a staggering 25 points, effortlessly sinking threes from beyond the arc and dominating every possession. She moved with purpose, precision, and that unmistakable fire in her eyes. It was clear that this wasn't just another game for her. This was personal.
obviously a tough time for that to happen. I got some really good looks. I felt I had three wide open threes in the first half that you usually make. So that's tough, but I felt like I battled and tried my best, took care of the ball. It didn't bother me. Obviously it didn't feel too good when it happened, but it is what it is.
Clark was out to prove that no matter how many cheap shots her opponents might take, she would always come out on top.
At the level you feel all the praise, that's going to be the same level you feel all the hate. So I feel like I just try to stay right in the middle.
She's going to face a level of racism from black players.
I think it is pure, unadulterated jealousy.
WNBA, I'm talking players, coaches, and refs. They're all a bunch of Caitlin Clark haters. They're all a bunch of jealous haters.
Yep.
They are just working themselves up about Caitlin Clark just to hate on her. Skylar Diggins is bumping her. Their girls are complaining on the bench. Referees are getting into it now. They're all a bunch of haters.
On the other hand, DiJonai's performance? Embarrassing. While Caitlin was lighting up the scoreboard, Carrington managed only 10 points, proving that her focus was never on the game itself, but on trying to disrupt Clark.
White girl is successful. White girl more popular. White girl must be bad. Bad white girl. We see it in politics with bad orange man. And of course her fans are racist. You racist!
The contrast between the two players couldn't have been clearer. Caitlin was there to win, while DiJonai was more interested in playing dirty. The entire crowd could feel the intensity, and the stats told the story.
Your biggest star, your meal ticket, the reason why you have relevancy, just got stabbed and assaulted and nothing.
Caitlin Clark, battered but unbroken, had come back with a performance for the ages. DiJonai's tactics might have slowed her down in the first game, but Clark's revenge was swift and severe. She didn't just beat Carrington, she completely humiliated her, showing the world who the real superstar was. This was Clark's way of saying, "You may have hit me, but you can't take me down."
Do you think that had any impact on the game? Your meal ticket should be stabbed in the eye intentionally, and there's no problem here?
What made this even more spectacular was the way Clark mimicked Steph Curry's signature style. Effortless deep threes, quick releases, and undeniable swagger.
Caitlin is the face right now, and that's also good. She's selling out gyms, of course. Why would you hate against that?
Carrington couldn't keep up, and her frustration showed. It was clear from that moment that Caitlin Clark was the future of the WNBA, and no amount of dirty play was going to change that.
What the WNBA is measuring one type of greatness against the other greatness. Am I saying it's right that she's being pushed in the back? No, that's foul. That has no space in the sport, and we all know that.
If anything, the assault only ignited a fire within her that no one could extinguish. Despite Caitlin Clark's epic comeback and the undeniable evidence of DiJonai Carrington's foul play, the media did something shocking. They turned against Clark.
Go ahead, I'm not going to let you make it seem like Caitlin Clark was averaging 5 points a game. At the time, she was still averaging 16 points a game, which was more than a lot of other guards that made the team. So don't do that. Don't make it seem like she was averaging 5 points and this was like a handout.
No, it wasn't a handout.
Look at her numbers. Look at her numbers comparable to the other guards that were on the team.
Instead of rallying behind their star player, the one who had brought the WNBA so much attention and excitement, they began spinning a different narrative.
DiJonai Carrington, fingernail to the eye. Caitlin Clark gets a bit of a black eye, and the accusations immediately started flying that she targeted her in the eye.
Suddenly, DiJonai's hit on Clark was being downplayed as a basketball play, a simple accident, something that didn't warrant the outrage it was initially met with.
There's no chance that this was intentional. Like, I watched it from different angles. There was no chance it was intentional.
But let's be clear, this was no accident. Anyone who watched that first game could see the malicious intent in Carrington's actions. Yet, the media chose to push this unintentional narrative, as if Clark's injuries and inability to perform at her peak in that game didn't matter.
Things happen. Probably every basketball game that is played, somebody gets a finger in the eye, at least somewhere during that game. Somebody catches an elbow. Somebody gets hit in the face. This is what happens when you have athletic people moving arms and legs, limbs are moving about in a competitive situation.
It's as though the moment Caitlin Clark threatened the status quo, her star power and influence became a target. The narrative quickly shifted from highlighting Carrington's foul behavior to questioning whether Caitlin was overreacting. Fans who supported Clark were quick to point out the double standards. How could anyone claim that a hit so blatant wasn't intentional?
Caitlin Clark, what she's doing doesn't minimize what they've done, but we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all poo-pooing the old guard. Y'all never talked about the old guard like this. Nah, I ain't gonna let it slide.
The replays showed it all. Carrington's arms swinging, the direct contact with Clark's face, and the aftermath that left Clark struggling to find her rhythm.
White girl is successful. White girl more popular. White girl must be bad. Bad white girl. We see it in politics with bad orange man. And of course her fans are racist. You racist! She has taken to two things that, well, most women go to in sports when it's not going their way. Shaking their ass and calling people racist. We understand that the world that we live in can easily be defined by white racist, white bad. You're rooting for a white guy, bad. You're wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Think about that. Make America Great Again. Oh, you don't understand. That has racial connotations. No, it doesn't. When it's not going well for you, claim racism. When it's going well for you, claim victim/racism. We get it. We understand. And frankly, I just laugh at it.
The same media that once hailed Clark as the next big thing in women's basketball was now strangely quiet on the injustice done to her. Instead, they were defending Carrington, making excuses, and trying to paint this as just part of the game.
Call out others for what you are doing. They're talking about racism of Caitlin Clark's fans. Claiming racism among Caitlin Clark's fans are actually the ones participating in the racism by celebrating an assault on the court.
This shift was both baffling and infuriating to Clark's supporters. Here was a player who had carried the WNBA on her back, who had drawn new audiences and revitalized interest in the league, now being thrown under the bus. Instead of calling out Carrington's dirty play, the media played it safe, perhaps not wanting to tarnish the league's image or upset certain players. But in doing so, they overlooked the truth. Carrington's foul was deliberate, and her post-game denial was just an attempt to cover up what everyone could see with their own eyes.
Crazy-ass lesbians, the crazy-ass OGs, the crazy-ass sexist, racists of the WNBA that did not make the WNBA anywhere notable over 27 years hadn't been so jealous, hadn't been so hateful.
The media's unwillingness to defend Caitlin Clark further proves how polarizing her success has become. Rather than supporting her for surviving a blatant attempt to knock her down, they're choosing to support the narrative of Carrington's innocence. But make no mistake, Caitlin Clark's fans know the truth, and they're not staying silent.
From DiJonai Carrington onto Caitlin Clark, that caught Caitlin Clark in the eye. Ultimately, she ended up getting a black eye out of it.
This entire incident has shown just how far some are willing to go to undermine Clark's influence in the league. But it only strengthens her legacy as a fighter who refuses to back down.
Do you think that had any impact on the game? Your meal ticket should be stabbed in the eye intentionally, and there's no problem here?
As we dive deeper into this on-court drama, there's an underlying factor that needs addressing: DiJonai Carrington's relationship with her teammate, Nalissa Smith.
But Nylisa's like this 6'4" power forward who should be their enforcer for Caitlin Clark. But you know why she can't be? She's dating and or likes DiJonai Carrington. That's how twisted and screwed up this WNBA thing and this sexuality thing is they got going on in the WNBA.
Both players are not just teammates on the Indiana Fever, but they're also in a romantic relationship, which raises serious questions about their behavior on the court, especially when it comes to Caitlin Clark. How does a personal relationship between teammates influence what happens in the game? Could this dynamic have played a role in Carrington's aggression toward Clark?
Nalissa Smith, she's dating and or likes DiJonai Carrington.
Many fans have pointed out that while Nalissa Smith could have been a balancing force, potentially diffusing the tension between Carrington and Clark, her personal involvement with Carrington might have clouded her judgment. Instead of protecting a fellow player, or at least calling for fair play, it seemed like Smith was complicit, turning a blind eye to what was happening. Was this relationship influencing the atmosphere on the court, allowing Carrington to act out without facing internal consequences?
Caitlin Clark makes the game easier for everybody else. Nalissa Smith can't hop on board. She's got to get out of there. They need a real enforcer. They need people that have Caitlin Clark's back.
Smith, as a key player in the WNBA, should have been someone who could rise above personal connections and stand for fair sportsmanship. But when your significant other is involved in a conflict, that objectivity can become blurred. The fact that both Smith and Carrington are involved with each other raises concerns about favoritism, and whether Smith had a role in allowing this hostility to build against Caitlin Clark.
The only league that I know of where DiJonai, the Spice, Carrington is engaged to the power forward on the Indiana Fever, Niza, whatever the hell her name is, Smith, Jones, whatever the hell her name is. I think it's Smith. They're engaged, and they're competing against each other.
This relationship has undoubtedly added another layer to the rivalry. Clark essentially was going up against not just one opponent, but a duo that likely had each other's backs, both on and off the court. It's a tangled web of personal and professional dynamics that makes this entire situation even murkier. With Carrington feeling empowered by Smith's silent support, it's no wonder she acted out in such a brutal manner against Clark. But what does this mean for the WNBA? Having players in relationships, particularly when they're on the same team, is not unheard of. However, when those relationships begin to impact what happens on the court, questions must be raised about fairness, objectivity, and the integrity of the game. Caitlin Clark, caught in the middle of this personal alliance, found herself targeted and isolated, facing two players who were more interested in their own dynamic than in maintaining the spirit of competition. This kind of influence is not just bad for Clark, it's bad for the league as a whole. When personal relationships start affecting gameplay, it diminishes the fairness that sports should embody. Fans come to see competition, not vendettas. And in this case, Carrington and Smith's relationship may have contributed to a situation where Clark was treated unfairly, both on and off the court. As we wrap up this explosive story, one thing is crystal clear. Caitlin Clark is a force to be reckoned with, no matter how hard her opponents try to bring her down. DiJonai Carrington may have tried to take her out with that brutal assault, but Clark's resilience and Steph Curry-style revenge performance proved she's untouchable on the court. And while the relationship between Carrington and Nalissa Smith raises some serious questions about what's happening behind the scenes in the WNBA, one thing remains undeniable. Caitlin Clark's impact on the league is game-changing. She's not just surviving these personal attacks, she's elevating the entire sport with her unmatched talent and star power. So, stay tuned as this drama continues to unfold, because with Clark's skills and determination, there's no telling how far she'll take the WNBA and how many more opponents will regret underestimating her. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and let us know in the comments what you think about this rivalry and the effect it's having on the league. Until next time.